Buffalo, Minnesota. If you are in Wright County, this is what happens when you were 18. You got a number. Okay, this is the recruit station that he probably came into. Oh, here we are. That feels again. Yeah, okay, now this is what gave me a hand. Okay. Yeah, okay, sure, this is where they lived and they got to toughen them up. And Roger was the toughest of all. Okay, up, down, across, over the hill, and up. And this one, I put this one in just because Roger's such a farm boy. And I'm sure you remember swinging on the road with the hay mound, you know? He had this down pat, I'm sure. Okay, now this is some of the technical training that we went through. Ah, see, here now they're doing their laundry. But now this is really cute. I like this. This is how you keep track of your clothespins. Okay, this is a picture of his training group. You'll notice that there are some Marines and there are some Navy. So they train together. Well, does this look like Roger? He said maybe my picture is in that book. So I'm going through the book and that's the only blonde kid I think that I found in the whole book. I don't know if it's him or not. But he said he did earn expert rifle. Okay, this is his honorable discharge. Okay. Oh, Roger.
I was in during the Vietnam time.
My gosh.
Fortunately, I didn't get activated. Third year, we were very close. We had all our sea bags ready to go. We were waiting for the president's sign, but he never signed it. And I think I'm pretty happy about that because I think Vietnam was a very nice place to take a vacation. But I do remember when I first got, when it was time, you know, I thought, well, I'm just going to get drafted and go in the Army. Well, I decided, well then, I got a letter from the Marine Air Reserve that says, come and see us. We're going to take a little trip and see if you want to sign up. Well, I went there and I got signed up right away. I said, what's going on? All the reserves were, you couldn't get in, and then all of a sudden, I go there and I'm signed up. I said, what kind of an age is this? Well, anyway, I was very surprised. Then I do remember going to I said, well, I guess I'm in. So then we fly down to San Diego, and I said, okay. We call up the Marine Air Reserve, or it was regular Marines. I called them up, and they got them on the phone, and I said, well, we're here. He says, well, get out on the front and stand at attention. I said, what in the world did I sign up for here? So some Marine truck comes around and they put us in a box. There's about 4 or 5 of us. You know, normally you get right, but not with that. You do it, you set, just get in there and sit on the tent. I said, my gosh, these aren't really nice people. And I was sitting in the back of that truck, and they didn't drive 50 miles an hour. I bet you they drove 65, 70 and made us. And we're supposed to sit there at attention. And I said, what in the world am I in for here? So we got this Marine Corps depot. You know, they're not, well, it's nice to see you. No. They said, get out on those yellow footprints and stand at attention, one move and you're, oh boy. I said, I don't know about this place. So then we've seen those pictures. Do you have some pictures here? Yeah, go back one. We get in there. They cut our hair off. We line up. We gotta stand. Cut all your hair off. Bright yellow shirts. Boy, did we look ugly. There was so many guys there, about 25, 30. We went back in there, and they cut our hair. I looked at everybody and I thought, my gosh. I started to laugh a little bit. Should have done that. Well, anyway, I had to go make coffee. Well, I didn't know they coffee. They didn't care. They just, so then they'd bring us to the first days I never forgot, because then we had to line up. Nobody knew how to march, but they lined you up. There's about 50 guys in a platoon. And you couldn't move your eyes left or right. I don't think I got to the mess hall for a week because I couldn't look anywhere. If you look this way, they must have had eyes in their head. I got chewed out for every eye move you ever had. One thing though, at my family, we used to eat fast, so they go ahead, get you to the mess hall, they said, ready, seats, everybody, boom! Nice, these ain't very nice people. But then they would say, you got about 5 minutes to eat. Well, I could eat in 3. I had 4 brothers older than me. I had to eat fast at home, right? I got But some of these guys, they wouldn't get done eating. They just kick them out. Well, this was all about discipline. But that first week, I was so devastated that I said, what in the heck? But I kind of made up my mind. I said, when these DIs get after me, I said, I'll run them to the ground. Because I was just coming out of wrestling, I was decent shape. But I figured, I'm going to get through this somehow or another. So I was pretty nervous for about the first 2 weeks. But, you know, then we would, the experiences I had in boot camp I'll never forget. We then they would go out. If we even did anything wrong, they'd give me 50 push-ups. So we were out there marching. There would be this jail crew running over, and they always warned us, you would step out of line, you'd be chopping rocks for a week. But anyway, every time we did something wrong, they'd get 75 guys, they'd get us in the sand pile, they'd say, all right, get together. We all got clustered together. Get on your belly, on your back, throw sand in the air. Well, that was kind of very nerve-wracking for me, but we got through that. But that was all about discipline. Then I thought, I don't know about these Marines. I remember one time, I just got done with, and then I was a reserve, so I had to go to a helicopter or go to air training, and the rest of these guys went to ITR. That would be more bivouac and stuff. So anyway, I remember I had to go in the laundry because I just graduated. And in there I seen a bunch of DIs. They were talking about their experiences with recruits. And we'd have these, we'd line up and march. They'd say, get in the bathroom, which we'd call it a head. And the bathrooms were about, this big. And then they'd say, get in there, and you better not be the last one, because they'd kind of kick you if you're in. So I kind of just dove in there. But I remember when the DIs were saying, I had my platoon in there, I locked the door and I says, get out of the head. They went right through the wall. But, we were not, they had a picture of us with the Navy. The Navy was across they didn't train us as safe. They were across the airport, and they just took pictures of it because we were supposed to be in a protective thing with them. But we never trained together. They would just leave me on one side. But I think they purposely tried to just scare you so that you discipline. And I remember one time, some of these kids couldn't take it. We went to the rifle range. The week before I got there, they would put us on a rifle range, and one of the kids just couldn't take the pressure. He shot himself right on the rifle range. He just couldn't take it. Some of these kids would come, they would do a lot of physical training, and some of these kids come right out of the city, way overweight. They just couldn't handle the pressure. And then they would send them back, and some of these kids would be in. It was a 6-week training camp. Some of them would be there 2 months because they just keep putting them back because they had to do it. But my MOS was, I went from basic training and I went to Jacksonville, Florida for metal training, and then from there to Memphis, Tennessee. And I was about 7 months active, and I just went to different schools. But what I found is that it was always LA. If they tell you, I remember when I went to Memphis, they gave me a barracks, and you kind of wanted to do everything they said. So they take a roll call, and obviously they missed my name. So then I'd say, well, you got to kind of be good to these guys. So I said, well, you missed my name. He said, well, don't worry about it, but we'll get you next week, or get you next day, because we're getting new recruits every day. And I said, okay. Well, I went the next day, same thing. And after about 5 times, I said, you know, I'll just sleep here. And the heck with it, I ain't gonna give them my name. Well, every week they'd have to be a cleaning day, and they'd take that roll call. Well, I figured, well, if I'm not on the roll call, how will they know I'm there? So I just went over there and played ping pong. And if they ever asked me, I said, well, this is what you told me to do. So you kind of learn the ropes of all these issues in the military. But fortunately, I never did get activated. But then I was promoted to sergeant, and I found out when I'd have these reserve meetings that I'd be in. So then every week or every day, the commanding officer would say, give a report. So I got good at just telling them what they wanted to hear. I'd say, well, I'd have a little class here and there. But I do remember when I was in about the 3rd year, I was on a 2-week active duty. I was in San Diego, California. And my dad had died. And then my mom put out to the Red Cross to get me back for my dad's funeral. So I was about a week and I was supposed to be 2 acts active, but in the first week they had maneuvers, so they flew us out on the Pacific on the aircraft carrier just for training. And so then when we were out there, we just spent some time. They wanted to maneuver us onto the aircraft carrier. We spent time so we get maneuvered back. But my mom put the Red Cross out to get me home for my dad's funeral. So then I didn't come off that aircraft carrier to the last guy or last ride. And I had the commanding officers looking for me because they wanted to send me home for my dad's funeral. Well, when they finally found me, I was in San Diego. It was an hour to the airport. And when they found me, he says, your dad died, you got to get on the airport. Hour to get there. There's no way I could do that. Well, they flew me on a helicopter right next to the plane. So when the military decides to do something, they can. I was there in 20 minutes. They escorted me, and my bag is right on the airplane, and I was home. So I flew that. So I thought, what do these people think? I got a helicopter coming up, dropping next to the plane, flew me home. So if they wanted to do something, they could, but it's quite an experience to be running around with a lot of people. But fortunately, I never did go active. I had, like, I know my brother told me, you know, he was in Korea. He did mention some stories. I remember one story Earl told me. He had to bring, during World War II, or in the Korean War, he had to bring a load of ammunition out. And he says, he hit a key road. And he says, fortunately, I took the right road because the other one was right to enemy lines.
Oh, jeez.
But then he also remembered that one of his guys was about 6'5". He got hit by a mortar round and buried him in the matchbox. So he did see some. But he never talked to me about any of those military things either. So that's kind of my experience with the military. Fortunately, my dad was, and then when I thought, my dad would take that trumpet occasionally when I was younger. He loved that military. He'd get really into, he'd sometimes march around and play that trumpet. But the interesting thing is, my you know, my dad was World War I, and then my wife, father, right, fought in World War II.
Oh, wow.
So there's a generation difference between, and then my father-in-law did 6 campaigns in World War II, 6 months POW, and I don't remember exactly, but there were like 300 people that left, and of that, maybe 7 guys came back, so it was, so that was some of the stuff that happened. It wasn't fun, but fortunately, you know, back here, and it was kind of interesting because I had my dad World War I, brother World War II, my other brother Korean War, and unfortunately I didn't get active, but it was close to Vietnam.
All right, we're going to go to General Pajari. This is the Finnish soldier, and I picked this because of the name, but also because of what's going on now. And this is, if you don't learn your lesson from history, it's going to get repeated. Okay, let's go with, go ahead. Okay, he was born, I think this is about 50 miles from Helsinki. It's down in the southern portion of Finland. At age 20, he joined the White Guard, and he served as a commander. Now, you have to remember that Sweden owned Finland for a long time, and then they gave it to Russia. Russia operated Finland kind of as a territory, and they were doing real well themselves, the British people. And so then Russia decided, okay, you now can be your own. So it was around this time that they said, okay, now Finland, you're independent, you take care of yourself. And so what happens when they're taking care of themselves, they start a civil war. Okay, and so everybody's in this deal. And so they have no organized army, okay? Now, when I was doing this, I heard people talk about the white Finns and the red Finns. And so I wanted to know who was white and who was red, and yes, it was red. They were right down there in the bottom. And that was the heaviest part. They wanted that area because it was close to the ocean, the sea down there, okay? Yeah. This is his time after the war. It didn't last very long, the Civil War. There's a gap in here, and he went to military school, we're assuming. And then from 26 to 39, he trained soldiers. 39 is when Russia came knocking on the door. And so here comes Russia. Look at that. What is Russia doing in Ukraine? Same darn thing. Okay, he was down in here where those crosses are. That's where his troop was put, or his command was put, because that was going to be the heaviest infiltration, and that's where they really needed to stop them, because Stalin thought we're going to take Finland just like we walked right over Poland. Now we're going to go Finland, we're going to walk over them, we're going to walk over Sweden, we're going to walk over Norway, and we're going to take Great Britain. That was the master plan. And who stopped them? It didn't stop them. Okay, everybody had to get ready. Everybody. They shipped kids out of there because when Russia started bomb, a lot of the little kids left. These women here are making the white suits for the soldiers. Okay. This is Colonel Pajari. He is noted for having small units, but being on the front line all the time with his units. Oh, that war only lasted 105 days. And Stalin was so confident that he only set ammunition for like 13 to 15 days. Those soldiers came in warm weather clothing. You know, if that war had been fought in the summer, it would be on a different volume. Because the Finnish people knew how to deal with the sub-zero weather, and the Russians didn't. Okay, here, see? They all wore the white uniforms. This hat right here is from the Winter War. And they wore those kind of hats. Now, the Army had promised their soldiers a hot meal a day and a sauna once a week. Some of these portable kitchens have wheels and some had skis. And this one, they're getting this ready. It's on here, okay. Now, what happened is down near where I showed you the Red Fight, the Russians had come and given them a pretty bad time. And so everybody they're coming back to the base camp, and you see everybody's turning around and they're running into the forest. Well, what happened is the hungry Russians came across the field kitchen that was cooking sausage soup, and they could not resist. So they laid down their arms and they thought they were going to have supper. Okay, so that's why it's called the Sausage War. And it's in a book, we found it, but that was really interesting. That was one of the biggest battles and most decisive battles of the Winter War. This is Colonel Pajari at his outpost in Pajari. Okay, and see, he was one of the most bravest and courageous Finnish soldiers that he had. Okay, for his leadership, he won the cross, Matterhorn Cross of Liberty number 12. There were very few people that got these. Matterhorn was the commander, the head of the whole army. Matterhorn was raised in Germany, trained as a German soldier, as a Russian soldier, and so then he went to Finland, and now he's over here commanding the Finnish army against the Russians. Okay. Here he is again on the front lines, and you can tell how much his troops thought of him, because they began to call themselves the Sons of Pajari. Oh, and going through all these pictures, and I did a lot of this on the internet, it's really interesting. And you get yourself into modern day and you don't realize, hey, Russia thought they were going to have an easy time because Poland was flat land. Well, hey, buds, this is a different deal. This is Finland. We got forests. And so they're in the forest, and they use horses a lot. And that's where they tended. Go ahead. Yeah. This is an ambulance. There's no way they're going to get their injured out, so they put them on stretchers between two horses. Oh, this is, Finland, they came in and they had long, long trails through the woods. And the Russians had long, long trails of tanks and everything else. And so the Finns thought, the heck with these long lines, we're just going to cut them up like a steak. And so that's what they did. If you cut up the front line, it backs up everything in the back. And so that's how one of their things. And this is, see, you can see way back, the trees. The line just goes back and back. Okay, this is the war in Lapland. So they're going to use every resource they have. So we'll have the Rangers pull our sled. Okay, he was awarded the second Matterhorn Cross for a second time. There's very few people that this has happened to. He's probably one of the most decorated soldiers, commanding officers. Yeah, there's a two-man artillery. I just couldn't resist that picture. You know, the gun rocks. Okay. And here's when he retired. Oh, poor guy. Retired in 49, he died in 49. Died of a heart attack. Okay? Yeah. This is our land. The Russians didn't take it. This is ours. Okay. Oh, Dave's got some stuff to say.
I don't have too much to say about General Pajari, but what I read on the internet, he was an independent thinker. Well, we don't know for sure if we're really related to him or not, but there's a lot of independent thinkers. And they said that he was controversial among his colleagues, and so I suppose he had a mind of his own. And he was also very hard of hearing. And they said at one war, they were retreating, and he told some of the soldiers were running away. He said, "You go ahead and run, but you're going to die tired. So go ahead and run or stay here and fight." And they fought with them. They were loyal to him. And, but some of the other commanders wanted to retreat also. When they were retreating, and General Pajari said, "I didn't hear him. He had no intention of retreating. He was going to keep going." And they've been fighting before the Muckana Wars, the Sausage Wars. They were fighting 7, 8, 10, 12 days in a row, and everyone was tired, but they were starting to gain a little ground. So one of the commanders wanted to take the day off, and he scoffed, "No taking days off for us. We're going to keep fighting." The only other thing they talked about the Pajari boys and the loyalty is one Finnish soldier was walking down the street one evening. He'd been drinking a little bit, and he met an officer, and he didn't salute. And the officer, "What's wrong with you? You don't salute me." He said, "I only salute Mannerheim and Pajari. That's it."
That winter war stuff is really interesting, and if you want to know more, is what we're going to do at Midsummer's. We're going to show the video Fire on Ice again. We'll bring more information that we have about that war, and there are a lot of people that are going to be interested in that. So come and join us. It'll be right here. Our fall. No, yep.
Sorry.
Our fall program will be really interesting. We had, doesn't have it. We give Saul Olympic scholarships every year, and this one particular boy came in, he was a sophomore, and he got a Saul Olympic scholarship. He went for 2 weeks, and the next year he went back because you could earn a high school credit if you went and learned Finnish. And this year, I think it's as his senior year, he is in Finland the whole year, and he will be at our fall program to tell us about his experiences in Finland, and that should be really, really interesting. So, yeah, there he is. He was doing the drawing for us. Okay, that's it. Harvey's got more.
I guess one of the things